This is Pastor Tian from Citylights Church. At Citylights, we are studying the Book of Philippians in the Bible. And the theme of Philippians is joy. So we're calling this series Unshakable Joy. The Declaration of Independence states that God has given us certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson would be very pleased if he saw us now, because that's what we're doing. We are pursuing happiness with vigor. The pursuit of happiness has become the primary driver in our lives. That's why we go to school to get a degree. That's why we work. That's why we date and we get married and we have kids. That's why we go to nice restaurants, to the movies, to concerts, to sporting events. That's why we party and drink. That's why we go into debt to buy things we can't afford. We are pursuing happiness. But the problem is that most of us would say that we are not truly happy. In fact, we are dissatisfied and frustrated. Many of us are disillusioned. We ask, is there more to this? Isn't life more than this? I thought there was more. Is this all there is? The problem is happiness is elusive and it's fragile. Happiness is like a boy playing with bubbles in a park. Have you ever seen a little kid playing with bubbles? They have the little bottle of soapy water, and they have the little wand. They dip the wand into the bottle, and they pull it out and they blow it. And the sky fills with all these little bubbles, and the boy runs around trying to catch these bubbles, and they're hard to catch and they're elusive, and he reaches around, tries to grab one, but once he grabs one and he thinks he has it, he opens his hand and there's nothing there because the bubble has popped. Now happiness is like that boy's bubble. It's elusive and it's fragile. Once you think you have it, it's gone. Why is that? Why is happiness so elusive and fragile? Well, you have to understand the original meaning of the word happy. Happiness, the word happy comes from an Old English word, hap, which means luck. So the word, for example, hapless means without luck. It's related to the word happenstance, which means a fortunate or lucky circumstance. So happy is a feeling that you get when your circumstances in life are going well. It's when you are lucky or fortunate. The Bible promises something deeper, more secure, and more lasting than happiness. The Bible says that you should not pursue happiness, but rather you should pursue joy. Joy is different than happiness. The Bible uses the word happy only about 30 times, but it uses the word joy over 3,000 times. The Bible places 100 times more emphasis on joy than happiness. That is 10,000% more emphasis on joy over happiness. Joy is so much better than happiness because joy is not based on our circumstances. The Bible says that the joy of the Lord is my strength. Joy is strong and enduring. Circumstances can rob happiness of its power, but joy stands strong. When we face difficulty, and it is impossible for us to be happy, but we can still be joyful. The Apostle Paul is writing Philippians from jail. He was arrested for preaching about Jesus, and he sits in prison, and he writes this letter to the church in a city called Philippi to encourage them. And throughout this letter, Paul tells them, be joyful. He says, rejoice. Again, I say to you, rejoice. Because nothing can take away Paul's joy. He tells them, rejoice. It's a decision. It's a choice you make. Like William Wallace from Braveheart said, they can take our lives, but they can't take our freedom. From jail, Paul is saying, they can take my freedom, but they can't take my joy. Joy is strong and it's enduring. So how can we be more joyful? In order to be more joyful, we need to be aware of the enemies of joy. We need to fight against the enemies of joy. There are 5 enemies. They are circumstance, people, things, worry, or comparison. Let's talk about worry and comparison. Worry, the definition is that it is a state of anxiety and uncertainty over actual or potential problems. We think about problems or potential problems and we get anxious, and worry is thinking about all these different problems we have, and worry will steal your joy. That you cannot be full of worry and be joyful at the same time. If you're a believer in Jesus, you don't have to worry. We know that our life is in God's hands. I heard it once said that worry is believing that God just won't get it right. It's a state of distrusting God. You worry because you don't believe that God won't get it right. I would say instead of worry, why don't you trust God so you could be more joyful? Comparison. It's difficult not to compare ourselves and our situation with others around us. We're surrounded by it. We look at their Facebook posts with envy. We look at how the nice cars they have. But let me tell you, comparison is dangerous because it will steal your joy every time. You shouldn't compare yourselves with others. Let me give you 3 reasons why comparison is bad. First, comparison is unproductive. It won't produce anything good in your life. It will either lead to pride or despair. When you compare yourself with someone else and you come out on the positive end, you feel like you're doing better than that other person, it will lead to pride, which is unproductive. Or it will lead to despair when you feel like you are doing less than them. Then if they have it better than you, it will lead to despair. Comparison is unproductive. It won't make you a better person. Comparison, secondly, is a distraction. God has given you a specific assignment. It really doesn't matter what whoever else is doing, that we need to stay focused on our own calling and our own assignment. That comparison is a distraction from the assignment God has given you. And thirdly, comparison is a false reality. What we're doing when we compare ourselves with others is that we compare what we know about ourselves on our worst day with what we think we know about that other person on their best day. And it's a false reality. What they post on their Facebook account isn't a true reality. It's not a true picture of their lives. It's a false reality. Don't compare yourselves with others because it's unproductive, it's a distraction, and it's a false reality. So let me encourage you to stop pursuing happiness because happiness is elusive and fragile, but rather pursue joy. Stop worrying. Stop comparing yourself with others. Pursue joy because the joy of the Lord will be your strength.